But as social media started to gather pace, every one of us now has got a platform where we can share our thoughts, our opinion, our expertise. And we've all got the opportunity to build our own personal brand to sit alongside our company brand. And if we do that really well and we build a really strong, authentic, effective personal brand, especially as a founder or leader, we can really use it to increase the success of our business. I mean, we all know people buy from people, investors invest in people, and employees, by and large, join managers and teams. They join people, not necessarily businesses. We're really driven by those interpersonal connections, right? Which is why I think this stuff is so important. And also, it doesn't just go for founders, it goes for everybody in your business. I was recently recruiting for a company where the head of engineering had such a strong personal brand in the engineering space that it made such a difference to the hiring process. Literally every candidate I spoke to had heard of them. And when I said who the manager's name was, they almost all of them said, "Oh my God, I didn't know that was the manager. That's somebody I would desperately love to work for. I've read their book, I've seen their talks." You know, they had such a strong personal brand that, you know, it made it so much easier to hire the best people into their team, which is, you know, why this stuff's so important. So if as founders and leaders, you guys can start to master this stuff yourselves, then you can cascade that down within your businesses and hopefully build an entire business of superpower personal brands. That's the idea. So today's session is all about helping give you guys the tools to do that. We're joined by three amazing speakers to share their expertise and their experiences with you. So first of all, we've got Thomas Panton, founder of Canopey. Through the work he's done building his personal brand, he's been selected as LinkedIn's top green voice. He's been invited to speak on BBC Radio, and he's exceeded a fundraising target on Crowdcube for his business. So he's going to share with you how his personal branding journey has positively impacted his business and what advice he would give to others. Thomas will then be followed by Lyndsey. Lyndsey is the founder of Meredith Social. And for the last 4 years, Lyndsey's been working as a business coach, advisor, and mentor to recruitment businesses. And a huge part of her expertise focuses around building out your personal brand. And she's got a LinkedIn content creation course for founders who want to increase their followers and engagement. I'm a client of Lyndsey's, and I can personally attest to the fact that my own online presence, brand, my confidence in showing, you know, my true self and showcasing my business has grown hugely since I've started working with her. So she's an absolute font of knowledge. And we are then joined by Izzy, who is joining us. Izzy Pryor from Spark Social Media, joining us from Bali. So hats off to Izzy for the time difference and making the effort to be with us today. Izzy absolutely lives and breathes this stuff. She builds personal brands for purpose-led CEOs. And in just 2 years, she has amassed a following of over 40,000 people on LinkedIn herself. So she very much walks the walk, and she's a living example of how this stuff works. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Thomas to you all.
Thanks very much. That was a great intro. Hello, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. Yeah, when you're speaking on the same panel as Izzy Pryor, you sort of realise that your personal brand probably isn't quite as large as some other people's. But yeah, no, I'll give a little bit of context into my journey first, and how I got to where I am, and then sort of what my experience of building a personal brand or just sort of building the face of a company has been. So my journey starts a long time ago. So I'm relatively young, I'm 27, but pretty much 20 years ago, I actually started swimming competitively. And from the age of sort of young teens up to 18, I was swimming internationally and competitively, which was my first real experience. And growing up with sort of being in the limelight and highly ambitious, highly competitive environment, and highly stressful environment probably suited and prepared me for my founder's life. But that's where I started. And really, that whole journey going through that really puts you in a position where you're always pushing yourself forward. You're always putting yourself in the front line of pretty much everything from press to the sport you're doing. But when I left swimming due to injury, I did what everyone does. I didn't really know what I was doing with my life. And I went to university, and that's where I really got involved with the climate sector. So this is where my journey in the climate space really began. I started working for the world's largest independent environmental organization, being Greenpeace. Started as a foot soldier fundraiser, which was great because it's all about speaking to real people, engaging, understanding them, learning what their their discomforts with your organization are, but also what they love about what you're doing, and how to navigate that and really speak to people. And that was sort of the beginning of that journey. And I think that the thing with Greenpeace is that they're such a fantastic organization. They're doing amazing work, but people only see sort of like 2% of it, which is their activism. And relaying that information and being the face of an organization as a fundraiser, and then into outreach, and then events, and then speaking, you have to sort of take all of that onto your shoulders and present that in a really accessible way, and sort of not waffle on, which has been something that I've definitely had to learn to manage a bit more. But the reason that I left Greenpeace was that Greenpeace are doing fantastic work, but the organizations and governments and corporations that they're targeting, one, they're the biggest of the world, and two, they move really, really slowly. So as much as we're doing amazing work, it took forever to get any change through, as you're probably aware. So they've been around for 50 years, they've had huge success, but it does take time. And coming from the swimming world and highly competitive and fast-paced environment, I got a bit impatient. So that's when I left and started my first company. So I set up the first company in the UK to be paid by events and festivals to go in before cleaning companies, to collect leftover consumer product waste, predominantly bulky stuff, so tents, chairs. And we were paid to come in, collect, and then repurpose, recycle, and reuse that waste, so it didn't go into landfill or into the incinerator. And this was, an amazing experience. Solo founder, learning everything from scratch. I hadn't been a founder before. I had never done anything in business. My degree had been in politics and international relations. So this really was a new world to me. But it was still with something I was absolutely passionate about, which was sustainability and the climate crisis and how we can deal with these problems. And this was something that I could see physically and I knew I could solve quite rapidly. And it was really successful. But my recommendation would be not to start a company in the events industry 1 year before a global pandemic. Not that I would have known that, but it definitely had an impact, and we had to pivot pretty rapidly. And that led to where I am today. So I'm the founder of Canopey, which is the home for buying better. We're an umbrella platform which brings compliance and trust by rigorously vetting the claims of brands and their products into one central marketplace where you can learn, shop, and get the convenience of everyday shopping, as well as track the impact of that data with our impact calculator, which shows the carbon emissions, the water waste, and the plastic waste of every product across all product categories based on the materials. And for me, the whole journey there has been that throughout engaging tens of thousands of people into the climate movement over the last decade, the consistent thing which has stopped people is convenience and the barriers of entry. So if we can remove those barriers and make it easy and accessible for individuals to adopt a sustainable lifestyle, then we're going to have far more success in solving the climate crisis as individuals. Now, where does my personal brand come into all of this? Well, as a founder, I think you naturally end up being the face of a company. You end up speaking, you end up pitching, you end up being in press. But really, for me, what it comes down to is something that Cherry really brought up early on in what she was saying, which is authenticity and transparency. So without sort of, teaching you all to stuff you already know, I think my journey with this has been a little bit different from most influencers or personal brands, or thought leaders, however much I hate that phrase. And I think it really comes down for me is a real pushback against that sort of mindset of you're presenting a piece of yourself which you want people to see, and the rest you don't let them see. And that's been the traditional way of sort of influencing, and all of the Instagram influencers that sort of boomed over the last decade. For me, and I think that we're seeing a real shift in the way that personal brand works now, particularly when it comes to companies, but also just generally, is that authenticity and transparency and laying yourself open as a book is far more engaging and relatable to people. So you can have lots and lots of followers who are following one specific thing that you do, or you can have real loyal followers, which might not be quite as big a follower base, but they are actually engaged in what you're saying. And they know you as a person. And so exactly as what was being said earlier, when you're going out to hire, when you're going out to raise money, when you're just launching your company or doing any sort of marketing campaign, the ability to have people who already know a name of that company or understand what we're doing because of the transparency that we've brought as founders to that has been extremely valuable. So I won't waffle on for too much longer, but and I'm sure we can get into some more detail in sort of in the Q&As, and I'll let other people speak. But over the last year, I've grown my follower base from 0 to thousands, tens of 10,000 nearly now, which again, nowhere near as many as Izzy yet, but we'll get there. But anyway, you know, I think again, it comes back to that point that throughout that entire journey, it hasn't been about lecturing, it hasn't been about judgmental posting, it hasn't been about choosing the piece that I want to present. It's been about being open, being transparent, being friendly, and being approachable. And honestly, it's far more rewarding when you get people who understand you and know you and speak to you on a personable basis, rather than sort of putting you on a pedestal. And I think that would be my sort of journey and experience in that so far, and long may it continue.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Thomas. And for anyone here who doesn't follow Thomas, I would definitely recommend to do so on LinkedIn, because yeah, that authenticity, that transparency really shines through. And he's also not afraid of sharing an opinion, whether or not that's something that he thinks will be readily accepted or agreed with by other people. And I really applaud that. He's absolutely 100% himself, and you know, sticks to his convictions, which is fantastic. So thank you so much, Thomas. And now Lyndsey is going to talk to us about her top tips.
Hi everyone, lovely to virtually meet you all. My first time here, so I don't think I know anyone but Cherry and Julia, so lovely to meet you all. As Cherry said, I'm Lyndsey, my company is Meredith Social, and I specialise in supporting founders to build their personal brands on LinkedIn. Do it in two ways. I teach founders how to create and scale their personal brands themselves, and that was what Cherry was referring to as the programme she went through earlier. And I also manage LinkedIn accounts for founders that don't have time to do it themselves as well. So today I thought I'd talk about some practical steps that you can take today to start building your personal brand on LinkedIn. Whether you're just getting started or whether you already have a profile on LinkedIn, but you're not necessarily getting what you want from it. So firstly, I know that Thomas has already touched on how successful LinkedIn has been for him in such a short period of time. But why LinkedIn as a platform? I personally think that LinkedIn is the best platform for founders to build their personal brand on. It is not only, it's the only platform that I know of that allows us to really strategically build our audience of the right people for free. So you can easily use LinkedIn to build a network of potential investors, employees, business partners, and customers within a really relatively short period of time due to its really targeted search capabilities. I've taught thousands of people to do this, started off in the recruitment industry, as Cherry said, and then now have done it in every other industry, and it absolutely works if the people that you want to attract are on LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn is personal, but it's also really scalable. So as Thomas said, it's allowed him to build a personal connection with a lot of people. It's allowed him to become the face of his business, but in a really, really scalable way as well, which means that you can get amazing results in a relatively short period of time. So how do you get started? So I've only got 10 minutes today, so I'm going to run through this really, really quickly. If anyone would like to speak about this in more detail, just grab my contact details from Cherry. Happy to have a coffee and a chat with anyone and talk about your brand specifically. But just going to take you through a few of the first things that you need to start thinking about in order to start your personal brand on LinkedIn. So firstly, and really importantly, you want to be thinking about how you want to be perceived in your marketplace. Essentially, what would you like people to say about you and your business if you weren't in the room? And that's really, really important because that will really form the basis of your personal brand. What do you want to be known for? And that's really important as well, especially in a purpose-led business. What is it that you want to be known for, and what is it that you want people to say when they hear your name? Secondly, who do you want to attract and why? So, for example, if you are a founder of an early stage startup that needs investment, you may want to attract investors to begin with. If you're an established business, you might want to look at attracting staff or customers or suppliers or partners. But knowing who you want to attract is really key to building your personal brand and getting the results that you want in the right way, because it will inform the themes of your content and how you speak and the tone that you use as well. The third thing that is really, really important, which a lot of people overlook when it comes to LinkedIn, especially if you already have an existing profile, is your profile itself. Now, LinkedIn was set up originally as a CV platform. So a lot of people's LinkedIn profiles are about them. And actually what it needs to be is it needs to be about your mission. It needs to be about what you're striving for. It needs to be about what's in it for your audience and what part they can take in that. So if you are clever, you can turn your LinkedIn profile into a lead generating sales page for you. So you should be, through your content and through your activity on LinkedIn, always driving people to your profile. Because what LinkedIn has is this amazing button, this message button on there, which allows people to contact you straight away. So you want to be getting as many people on your profile as possible, but then you want them to be taking action as well. So that's something that you really need to look at. When you've decided how you want to be perceived, is your profile speaking in that way to your audience? So now that you know who you want to attract and how you want to be perceived, you really want to start really intentionally building your network with the right people. So if you've already got a LinkedIn profile, you may have a network of people that maybe you have studied with or you've worked with before, but they may not necessarily be the people that you need now. They may not be the investors, they may not be the suppliers, the staff, the potential customers, the people that you need to help you on your journey. So you want to really start intentionally building your network with those people. And LinkedIn has absolutely brilliant search capabilities for this. So you can search on things like industry, location, company size, job title, all for free. And once you become first connected with the right people, you automatically become second connected to their network, as you know. And that's really, really important because we all tend to have a network of people like us, meaning that you can have a relatively small audience of really meaningful connections that can open up huge opportunities for you. With LinkedIn, size really doesn't matter. I have clients that have only got 1,000 connections, but what they're getting from that is absolutely immense. So don't be put off by people that have got huge networks. It's absolutely amazing to have a huge network, but you don't have to have a huge network for LinkedIn to really pay off for you. Even if you don't have a profile today and you start building it like Thomas did, it's only taken him a year to get the results that he's got. So it's absolutely, anyone is capable of doing this for themselves as well. It's really, really important that we, as I said, we have those meaningful connections, and just sending out connection requests to the right people and having the right sort of information on your profile can really get you on their radar. The next point, which is really, really important, and again, something that people don't often do, is engaging with people, speaking to them online as you would offline. LinkedIn has amazing capability. So if you build the right network of people, it's like getting yourself a ticket to a room of amazing people. Think of the most amazing maybe climate event that you've ever been to, and then think of that on steroids. You can amplify that with massive scalability on LinkedIn just by getting yourself in the room. So LinkedIn is at its core a networking platform. Therefore, we want to build a network of the right people, but then we want to engage with them. Don't just build a network of the right people, actually start to have conversations with them as well. There's a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can spend time every day liking, commenting on your network's content, become part of the conversation. We all like to be liked. It's human nature. So if you engage with someone's content, more often than not, they'll look at your profile and you get yourself on their radar. You can produce your own content that educates your audience as to who you are, what you do, what your company's mission is, and how they can get involved with that. When it comes to content, as Thomas said, you want to be authentic, and you also want to include a mixture of business and personal content. It's really, really important that they get to know you as a person as well as a founder, because people tend to buy into people and then they tend to buy into your brand. And that's why personal branding is so effective and why personal profiles on LinkedIn can be so much more successful than business ones. It's all about getting to know the person behind the profile. Now, once we're connected with someone on LinkedIn, we can also message them for free. So even if they're not actively on the platform, but they have a profile, if you send them a message, it automatically gets emailed to them. So it just means that it essentially opens up how you can contact people as well, because you can send them a message, it goes to their email, even if you don't have their contact details. So if you think of those people who you really wish you had their contact details, you really want to get on their radar, connecting to them on LinkedIn is a way of doing that. Now, having a strategy for your LinkedIn activity is really, really important. When it comes to any social media, we can all easily fall down a rabbit hole and it takes up much more time than it needs to do. So you want to have a strategy for knowing why you're spending time on there and what you really want to get out of that, and measuring your results all the time. So little whistle stop tour of what you can do and start doing from today. I know that's a lot of information to get in 10 minutes. If you want to ask me any questions, please feel free to in the Q&A, or if you want to speak to me about your specific business, as I said, more than happy to have a coffee with anyone.
Thanks for building your brand on LinkedIn. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lyndsey. And yeah, lots of information, but really clear kind of actionable steps that if you're not already doing some of this stuff on LinkedIn, hopefully some great things there that you can take away and start implementing from today. And that point Lyndsey made about engagement, that one's, there's a stat, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's something about the percentage of people with a LinkedIn profile that actually engage on the platform is tiny. I think, is it like 10% or something? I think I probably should know that.
Probably less than that. And again, less than that are actually posting content as well. So if you are engaging with people and posting content, you're already way and above what probably a lot of your competitors are doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, just such a simple thing to do to really amplify your message and also to drive those connections. So thank you so much for that, Lyndsey. And now Izzy, please don't make us too jealous, Izzy. Izzy's joining us from Bali, I think. Is it Bali, Izzy? And she's going to share her expertise with you all.
Hello. I have a slideshow to share. Is it just sharing screen or?
It is. Can you see the button at the bottom that says share? And if you hover over that, it should say share screen, and then you should be able to share.
Yes, I'm joined from Bali today, so it's just about hitting 9 p.m. And I'm a little bit sunburned, so hopefully no one can see that. But yes, lovely to be here. I'm going to share a screen today just so I can walk through some presentation. I'm Izzy, and I'm going to share this. Technology is clearly not my thing, but can everyone see that? Is that all okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things that I do with my clients and the content that I share online is building your personal brand purposeful. A lot of content that you'll see and scroll through your LinkedIn feed is selfies, posts where people are often jumping on a bandwagon about working from home or, burnout, etc., etc. And it's very easy to get lost in these pieces of content and forget your real purpose and identity online. So that's really what I'm trying to bring to the platform. Personal branding has become a massive buzzword. Well, I didn't even know it was a thing for 10 years ago, but in the last 2-3 years, it's become a massive buzzword, and a lot of people have misconceptions about it. But equally, it can produce so many benefits, as both Lyndsey and Thomas have shared today. So I'm going to walk through what is personal branding. We've all sort of got a different take on it, and it all comes down to really the process of creating an identity for yourself, not your business, but yourself. And I think what a lot of people get wrong is the fact that their personal brand only serves their business, when if you create a successful personal brand for yourself, you can actually take this through your journey, through your career. So I started off my personal brand with a business of social media management and personal branding and TikTok, etc., etc. And as I've sort of gone on my journey, I've repositioned my business, but along the way, the audience that I've built up have still followed me regardless of the move. So I think it's quite interesting to take the perception that your personal brand will be there for you regardless of if you leave your business, if you sell your business, if you change the company that you're building. What it really comes down to also is the values that you have. We are all unique individuals with our own personal opinions, whether they be popular or unpopular, and that is really what makes you you, and that's what brings your community together and really builds that community. So these are a couple of things, your target audience really understand and connect with who you are. A lot of people who work with me over other agencies because of the core values that I stand for, but equally they may not work with me because of the core values I stand for. And then equally choosing you over your competitors. So there may be things that we do as an agency that are a little bit different than other agencies. The conversations that you communicate online, but equally offline, because your personal brand carries through to the networking events you go to the Zoom calls. For example, this webinar in itself, we've all got our own personal brands on here, the way we talk, the quirks that we have. So yeah. Here are a couple personal brands. Now, I was going to actually include Thomas on here, but he's part of the webinar in itself and he's spoken about his journey. So sorry, Thomas, you're not included in this, but here are a couple personal brands that you may or may not have come across online. All of them are very purpose-driven in how they talk, and I think this webinar really summarizes purpose and missions. That's what we've all come together to communicate. So Roy Samuel, he is a great personal brand and equally offline and online. James and Molly, these are all great people who are establishing thought leadership for themselves through conversations that may be unpopular, educational content that's really positioning themselves as an expert in field online. They're very memorable. If, for example, Molly, her company is Flexa Careers, and I think she's one of the most well-known people in the HR and flexible working space right now. And most people that I've spoken to, even clients that I've started working with, they will say her name as a source of inspiration for building their own personal brand. And if that's not proof to the matter that personal branding works, then I don't know what does. So maybe take a screenshot of this. There's some great people to follow and take inspiration, as well as Thomas himself in the purpose-led space. When I start working with people, we really want to dig what your personal brand is, dig deep and understand your persona, because it's all well and good having great content online, but if it doesn't align with who you are as a person, is it a true, authentic personal brand? So here are a couple of the questions that I've picked up, the questionnaire that we often sit down and work with people with. How would your colleagues and close network describe you? Now, if you want to get out content that talks about several things, and it doesn't align with the people that you see on a daily basis, your employees, the people that you go into networking events with, is it really authentic? So it might be interesting if you actually come away today and go and ask maybe your employees or people that you work alongside, who am I? What sort of person am I? Are there traits that you've seen me have? Some of the people say I'm hardworking, ambitious, sometimes easily influenced. It will give you a great idea of the sort of person you come across, and that will be able to align with your content. Equally, what qualities do you feel are most important in your industry? These are really great talking conversation points to have in your content equally, because if you're trying to attract an audience that has a particular belief or treats something seriously and really believes in a mission, then it makes sense that you also talk about it and align and resonate with them. It seems like a lot of people, when they're networking or they'll click like or a heart reaction on a post, it's because it resonates with them, the piece of content. And then lastly, do you have any strong industry beliefs? I think a lot of successful personal brands online come down to someone who perhaps gives back to their community massively, or has, not say controversial opinions, but strong industry beliefs. They will have things to say about their industry that may or may not be liked by all, but it carries them forward. Not say Andrew Tate as a great example in terms of him as a person, but he has an excellent personal brand because of the way that he communicates online. You either love him or hate him, but he has a great personal brand because of these controversial opinions that he has. So that's your persona. There are so many other questions that we ask, but it's really digging deep into who you are and your identity before you even start posting online. And then next, we dig into your tone of voice. Now, recording a video and even me talking on this webinar, I perhaps sound a little bit different to how a piece of text reads, because you can spend time writing a piece of text and uploading that and adding punctuation and other bullet points and whatever, but it's really important that you sound how you are in person, how you are at that networking event. So if you're someone who's quite sarcastic or humorous, then perhaps get that across in your content. in a way that is still, professional in terms of business relationships, but equally, if someone's going to be working with you, they want to get to know the real you. So again, some examples here are straight talking or passionate. If you use direct language or you're very storytelling focused, make sure that you pick up who you are and emulate that for your content. And then the last question here is, how do you want people to feel when they consume your content? You really want to get your mission across to these people. And if you're, quite, not say lazy with your content, but if you're not putting the effort in to take people on this journey with you, then how are your audience going to feel? Do they want to support you? I'm not so sure they would if you're not putting effort into really getting your message out there and communicating that. So there's some food for thought on identifying your personal brand. Here are a couple of mistakes that are made in personal branding. I just wanted to share with you today because it's quite easy to get started and say, yeah, I'm going to get going with this now after this webinar. But there are a couple of things that I've recognized in the founder and CEO space. And, it'd be great to get started without making these mistakes or just being aware of them. So the first one here is showcasing through your business and the strengths in your journey through self-promotion and bragging. Some people really get across, me, and they forget really that their audience is the key here. Your community is going to be the thing that carries you, that your followers and your connections are your brand advocates. So you really want to make your content more about them, and you can really do this through the vocabulary you use. Equally, social proof and accomplishments in a more humble voice may make sense here. Equally, an unhealthy obsession with perfection in your content. I think a lot of us care, actually probably all of us care what we say online because it's our message that we're getting across. But it's very easy to get so obsessed with it that you either don't post often and you're posting once a month or twice a month and you're not really giving to your community enough. So sometimes it's better to leave the perfection at the door and just get those posts out. The more that you're writing, more that you're recording yourself, the more content you're getting out there, you will improve your brand over time. Think of it like compound interest. Every post that you're putting up is contributing to the digital footprint that you're putting online. Equally, not staying true to your word. I think this applies to everything in business. Your reputation is really important. If you're putting messages out there that you're this, that, and the other, and then someone meets you in person, they sit on a call with you, networking or a business or a sales call, and you're not who you are, then it's not really aligning with your personal brand. So it's important to be authentic, as both Thomas and Lyndsey have previously said, and be true to who you are. Equally, following on from that, sacrificing your core values. We all have our own, beliefs. And if you're sacrificing those to go viral or jump on a trendy bandwagon piece of content, then that's not your personal brand either. So be wary of those sort of things. And then I think Lyndsey just picked up on this, is not engaging with your community. The way that I've grown to 40,000 followers online is by engaging with a community. I have a number of people who have really helped me grow online and build my confidence up as a business owner in myself, because although I may have a good personal brand, I'm still learning. I've only had a business for 2 years, almost 2 years. It's coming up to the anniversary soon, but before that I wasn't aware of taxes, accountancy, all these sort of things, and I'm still learning. So having a community by my side for not only my content but as an actual business owner is really important. You want to support each other's successes, and you want to be there, for your close network if they're going through failures. I think a great example of this with Thomas and his fundraising round at the end of last year. He had so much support because he had a community behind him. So that's something that a common, really strong mistake is people put content out online, yet they never give back to it. They don't engage with people. They don't respond to their comments. They treat it like a status. And that's a really big mistake. So do make sure you're replying to your comments. A couple of questions that I was going to go through is, what platform do I build on? I know Lyndsey touched on LinkedIn, but there are a lot of other platforms out there. And if your business is more, B2C based, it may make sense to go onto TikTok or Instagram. These social media platforms are beginning to have more commodities on them and sales calls and and businesses being making on there. So have a think of where actually is my target audience. LinkedIn is obviously a great one. I'm sure most of us will find our future talent, employees, investment, clients from LinkedIn, but there are other platforms that you can also build on. And also, if you're better on camera than on video than typing, it may be an alternative there, because LinkedIn aren't favoring video as much as these other platforms at the moment. Another question is, can I repurpose my content? I get this question quite a lot, because some people are like, well, isn't it really cheating if I'm copy and pasting the same thing? No, I have been traveling for the last 32 days, and a majority of the content I've put up over the last 32 days have been repurposed, because being on the move, I haven't got time to really sit down and deep focus and write new content. And this content has still brought me leads and conversations in with business. I think it's quite good if you change your hook, change the meat, change the format of your post. But yes, you can repurpose content. Sorry, I'm just wary of the time. I'm just speeding through these. How do I build an engaged network? I think Lyndsey very much touched on this earlier. Sending connection requests, but actually really engaging with your network. Don't just comment, nice post, agree, or, this is a great post, Thomas, for example. Really dig deep into the questions of the piece of content. You could actually argue with someone's piece of content and have a healthy debate. You could actually contribute to the conversation with your own knowledge. This is also going to be seen by other people in their network. So if you have competitors or people in a similar industry to you and you want to build your follower base from theirs, this is a great way of doing that. What opportunities are there? I think we touched on this recently. For myself, I've been able to build a personal brand and be on podcasts, go to networking events and actually sit on a panel. This webinar, for example, but also recently I hired my first employee, and I wouldn't have been able to do this without having a personal brand online. The person and I actually met last July. He was working for an agency previously, have been talking and networking ever since. And I basically put it out there that I would be hiring at the beginning of 2023, and he lapped at the opportunity. And I genuinely don't think I would have found someone so fit into my agency without personal branding being in the loop there. So yeah, there we go. I could breathe. Sorry, I tried to get through that really quickly, but if you have any questions, you can obviously send me a message, send me a connection request on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer anything specific, especially to the positive impact and social impact space, because they're the sort of clients that I'm working with currently. And then obviously we're going into some breakout rooms now. But there we go.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Yeah, so much content there. That's amazing. Thank you, Izzy, for sharing that. And don't worry, it's fine.